Right now I'm reading Black Jaguar Red Wolf by Marlon James. Amazing Jamaican writer. He wrote the History of the Seven Killings. If you haven't read that book, really good book. I like how he writes. He goes from patois to English in certain chapters, so it kind of feels like home a bit. What about you?
Oh man, on the spot. I mean, I tried to think of what culturally relevant strikes my interest. There's so many authors. As you said, I'm a big fan. You handed me that book actually, and it's a go-to to carry. Yeah, man. Of course, I cracked into it. I'm working on it. I'm also working on the Vibes Cartel book. It's massive. A friend of mine, a close friend of mine, named Maya Moore. She wrote a book called She Would Be King. It's about the birth of Liberia, and it starts from slave colonies. It goes through Jamaica and lands in a space where they created Liberia, a free nation in Africa, and just reimagined and introduced science fiction into it, which I think is a very big thing for our community to grow off of.
I was gonna recommend Dean Journal. Their whole magazine is about like equitable design, which is probably a topic no one really talks about. And they use equitable design pretty loosely, like architecture, product design, city design. Like if you think about it, it's typically not designed in an equitable way for our people, let alone all people. But Dean Journal, super duper dope book.
I looked at my bookshelf before I came here and I was thinking about what gave the most impact on things that I strive to create. There's an artist, Ren Hang. He passed maybe a couple of years ago. He was from China, and he was very defiant in the pictures that he was creating. And me as a photographer, I like to challenge visually people's thought process, the ideas of identity, and not conform in a way. And he was a big non-conformist, so much so that the book is very political in its nature of the pictures.
Jamaican Chinese or just Chinese?
No, just raw Chinese, bro.
A lot of Jamaican
Yeah,
Chinese.
yeah.
How to Say Babylon, it's newer. Sopia Sinclair, I think is her name. It's about her growing up Rasta in Jamaica, but then kind of realizing, I mean, if you know Rastafari, like, it sounds cool, but it's very patriarchal, and there's a lot of rules around how women can carry themselves. And I think, she was struggling with that as a youth, between her father being super Rasta, her mother kind of being subservient to it. But she just writes about that, and I think it's super eye-opening, because I think not a lot of people are aware of that. And then I grew up with a close brethren of mine he grew up in the rainforest in St. Croix, a full Rasta family, and he put me onto that years ago, where he was like, yeah, I have dreads, but I don't really associate, like, people think I'm Rasta, but I'm not, because I don't like how they treat their women and da-da-da-da-da. So I thought that was super cool, because I don't think there's too many like deep books like that that go from the surface, a bit more into the nuance of it all. How to Say Babylon.
I mean, there's so many more I can mention. I mean, maybe something a bit more current. Another magazine that I rate, as we say in Jamaica, it's a magazine called Citizen Magazine, which I had the pleasure of making some pictures for in the past. They're currently producing their third issue. I'm a big fan of like small publications and small journals and documents. It's very rich and annual. Kendrick Lamar was on the last cover, so they had some good sponsors to really take it far and wide, and I think that's an inspiration for young publications to always keep picking up what's current and looking through and finding the names that you don't think that you'd find associated in that, and see where else they go, like Forgotten Lands.